Hi everybody, for today's tutorial I want to show you how to construct conceptual masses of buildings. You're going to be using these buildings and placing them on a site that will be constructed later on. So I just was practicing here and I just wanted to show you what it could look like, what it is that you're going to be constructing. And you're going to basically start with a footprint of 20 feet by 50 feet, so 20 feet wide by 50 feet long, and that can represent a single-story building, like a single-family home. And then you will create a footprint that is 30 feet wide by 60 feet deep, and that one's going to be 2 stories, and that could be a 2-story single family home, and it could also be used to represent an apartment building, two-flat apartment building. And it's up to you if you want to make a 3-flat after that. But practice making these conceptual masses. We're going to show just a little bit more detail than we normally would in some conceptual masses. And the reason for that is so that you learn how to use the Rhino commands. So I'll go ahead and get started. Let me move this out of the way. I do have another session here running on my computer, and yes, you can run 2 Rhino sessions at once. So in this session, I just went ahead and opened up a blank, or rather just let Rhino open up, but make sure that you have your units formatted. And one of the quickest ways to do that is just to make sure you're using the right template. So I'm going to come over here and select File, and I'm just going to select New. And when I go to New, I'm going to select my large objects, inches, feet, and inches, and I'll go ahead and open that. So I know that when I start typing in my values for feet and inches, it will accept the values. All right, I'm just going to double click perspective view and get started there and zoom it out a little bit. Pan this over because I know I want to create a surface right here that's 20 feet by 50 feet. Um, and I mentioned, or I'm saying right now that I'm going to start with a surface. I could start with a box, but I just wanted to show you different ways of creating these conceptual masses. So I'm going to start here by typing in plane, and then I will enter. And then the first corner of the plane, because I have nothing on here yet, I'm just going to type in 0 and enter. And notice how it starts right there at that point of origin. And then it says for the other corner, I'm going to enter my coordinates. And I'm going to enter 20 feet, comma, 50 feet. And then I'll enter. And it creates the surface. And then I'm just going to zoom out and then hold down the shift, click and drag the right mouse so I can pan over. And that's roughly the footprint. Now, if you're going to make multiple versions, I would go ahead and just take that one and make a copy of it somewhere else before you do anything else to it. So I just clicked on it, gumball turned on, and make sure that you do have your gumball set down here at the command line. It's set on. And then if I just hover here for a moment, you'll see where it says that I can move it just by clicking and dragging the red axis arrow, or I can copy it. And to copy it, it says to tap the Alt key. So I'm going to click and drag over here to my left, and it's moving it. But as soon as I tap the Alt key one time, there's the copy, and then I'll just go ahead and release the left mouse button. So that's a copy, saving that one for later. All right, next up is that I want to now go ahead and extrude this surface. I can pick it, I can click on the dot here and extrude it, but I want to show you more of the commands. So with it selected like that, I'm just going to type in extrude, and I can see that it's giving me my options, and I just want to select the one that says extrude SRF for the surface. So I'm going to extrude it. I need to give it a height, and I want to start with a height of 4 feet because I just want to raise my building above the ground. I see that with a lot of the houses in the area. So 4 feet. So I'll type in 4 feet and enter, and I'm done. So that's more or less the base of my building. And let me just bring the other session back over here, and I want you to see what I did. So I started by just trying to establish those heights, and you'll see what I'm going to do in just a little bit, but I'm basically saying 4 feet, and then for the base where my first floor begins, and then I have a ceiling height of 8 feet, and then I'm giving myself 1 foot for the structure in between, and then I'm giving myself another 8 feet for the second floor in this case, and then a foot for the structure. So those are just some generic values I'm using, and feel free to use the same ones if you'd like. So let me move that off the screen. All right. So I'm just going to orbit here, and I've established the 4 feet that I want. And now what I'd like to do is go ahead and establish the other heights. So I can hold down Control Shift, click on it, and then I can extrude this again. Yes, I can use the gumball, but again, I'm just practicing this other command. So extrude surface, and there's the command. I could easily type it all out, but I'm doing it this way now. So extrude surface, I need to give it a height, and that height is going to be 8 feet, and enter. All right. So now that I've practiced that a couple of times, now I'll hold down the Control Shift, click on the surface, and I'll use the gumball. And when I use the gumball, I'm going to click right here on the dot, the circle, and notice what it says, that it will extrude it. So I can go ahead and just give that a click. And when I click it, I didn't click and drag, I just basically clicked. Now I need to enter a value. So I'm going to enter a value of 1 foot. So 1 foot, enter. And you'll see how it's still giving me the lines. I'll take care of that in just a little bit. And I'll click the dot again. Actually, no, I'm going to stop there because this is going to be a single story building. All right. So I'll stop there. I'll tap the escape key. And that is the beginning of my single story. To continue, and let me bring back my example here. Zoom this out a little bit. I want you to see that I was providing a soffit. Now let's go to this example here. So I have a soffit, and I brought the soffit out 1 foot or 1'6", can't remember, so that I can get the overhang. And this starts to look more like a house that we see in our neighborhoods. So that's what I'd like to do next, is give myself that offset. So I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to come over here, and then I'm going to hold down Control Shift and then select this surface. I'll give it a click now. And with that click, now I'm just going to come over here and click on the red dot 1 time. And then I'll type in the value of 1'6" and enter. So it brings it out, and then I'll click off of it. And that's the distance that I wanted. I can do the same thing on the other side. So hold down Control Shift, click on that surface, click on the red dot. Only this time I need to go negative 1'6" because the arrow is pointing in to the building, and I need the surface to extrude out away from the building. So it's minus 1'6", enter. And that's why it's really helpful, number one, to use the gumball, and number two, to keep an eye on those arrows. Which way are they pointing? So that's all set. I just clicked off of it. And now what I would like to do is I'd like to extrude this surface here. But you'll notice what it's doing is that it's added 2 other surfaces. So I have to be real careful here. Zoom in right about there. Hold down Control Shift. Click on this surface. Still holding down Control Shift. Click on the other surface. Still holding down Control Shift, and then click on the final surface over here. So I give that a click. And now all 3 have been selected. And then I'm just going to orbit a bit like that. And then I need to extrude them along the green axis. And the green axis, I have to now type in a value that is negative. So I'll click on the dot, and then it's already set to minus 1'6" based on the last entry. So I'll just enter. And that's all set. Click off of it. And then I'll orbit to the backside. And I'll do the same thing here. Just position myself in a way that I can see all 3 of these surfaces. Get a little bit closer. Let's see, right about there. Zoom out a little bit. Hold down Control Shift. and then click on my three surfaces. And if you need to, you can zoom in while still holding down Control Shift, and then click on that surface, and then release Control and Shift, and now orbit and click on the dot. And I need to extrude this, and not a negative 1'6", but a positive. So it's just quicker for me to type in 1'6" and enter. All right, let's sprout that out. And by the way, I'm just going to mention, when I orbit, notice how it's orbiting about the gumball. And that's because when I click on the white, sorry, I need to be able to get it, pick it here. Okay, on this white menu, circle gives me the menu. I have my menu set to orbit or to rotate view around the gumball. All right, just wanted to mention that. I'll click away from that, tap the escape key, nothing is selected, zoom out, and this is my building. Now at this point, if you wanted to, if you knew that you were going to make some other changes, and instead of having to construct this solid all over again, you can just take it and make a copy of it, just like I did with the solid over here. It doesn't hurt to do that. So I'm just going to click on it, and then I'm going to click and drag along the red axis here, but I'm also going to tap the control key, or I'm sorry, tap the alt key, move it, tap the alt key, and it makes a copy. And then release the mouse button right there, and I have a copy. All right, now to continue. What I'd like to do is, and let me bring back my example here, is give myself a roof. And this would be a hip or gable roof. I can't quite remember right now. I always get those two confused, but I will show you how to construct this roof on your building. Yeah, I believe it's gable. All right, move it out of the way. And before I do that, I have many lines here. And one of your classmates asked me this question last week, and I said, I'll give you the answer now, but I will share it out on a tutorial. So here we go. What I need to do here is really just remove all of the extra line work that's not needed. So there's a command, and it is merge all, and it's one single word, coplanar faces. You can see it appearing there at the top, so I'm just going to finish typing this out. All right, there it is. I'm going to pause there for a second so you can make a note of it. It's a long one, but it's a helpful one. So merge all coplanar faces. I'll enter. And then it says select meshes and poly surfaces or sub Ds. So I'm going to click on this poly surface and enter. And notice how it cleaned it up, which is a really, really nice feature. So now I'm good there, and I can continue. By the way, you do need to save the file. The information will be on Brightspace. I am not doing the saving right now, only because I want to focus on modeling. So make sure you save accordingly. And now would be a good time for you to go ahead and save your file. All right. The next thing I want to do is go ahead and raise the ridge along the middle here of my surface. And you know what? I don't want to confuse anybody. And I am going to come over here. And I do this to do a search for the roof types. And I usually go to the Owens Corning site to take a look at these images. If you're interested in doing different roof types than the ones I will show you, this is a great site to take a look and get some ideas. So the roof type that I'm working on right now, yes, it is a gable roof. And then I will go ahead and uh, put together a hip roof. So, all right, gable roof it is for now. Let's move this out of the way and continue. So what I need to do is I need to basically lift the roof right down the middle, but it's a single surface and I need to break this surface up into two separate surfaces. For those of you that are familiar with SketchUp, you know that all you have to do is draw a line and it separates the surface right away. But with Rhino, it's a little different. So I'm going to use a new command here. And this new command is called split face. So split face. and enter. And it says select the faces to split. I think I can click on the face here by itself. Let's see if it'll take it. Yes, done. Okay. So it selected the face, and then I'll go ahead and enter. And then it says start of split polyline. So now I have to start drawing a line to split this. And I have OSNAP set on, and I also have ortho on. And for my OSNAPs, I have endpoint. I also have midpoint, nearest, and intersection. So midpoint is what I need. So I'm just going to hover right over here and let it find the midpoint. So I'll give it one click. And then I'll take this line across so you can see where it's going. And I'll take it over to this midpoint and give that a click. And then I'll go ahead and enter. And then I'll enter again because I'm done. And now if I hold down Control Shift, you'll see how I have two separate faces. All right, releasing that. And now it's just a matter of holding down Control Shift and picking the line. So I click on the line. And what I'd like to do, take advantage of the gumball, is I'd like to raise this line up. And all I'm going to do is click on the blue axis. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Give it a click like this. And then it wants a value. Now, normally I would just click and drag that blue line up, but I want to be exact here, and you'll see why later on. So the value that I'm going to enter here, you can pick any value you want. There's a certain way that we do roofs in architecture. We do rise and run, but we're going to ignore that right now. When you get to your construction classes, you'll see what I mean. But for now, I just want to raise it 4 feet. So I'm going to type in 4 feet and enter. So it's now raised that surface 4 feet, and I have myself a nice looking building. All right, so that's the gable roof. Now I want to put in the hip roof, and I made a copy, so that's great. I'll be able to work off of that copy. In fact, I don't even need to use that copy. As I sit here thinking about it, I can take this one because I've already made all the progress I need on it. So I'm just going to click and drag the red axis here, and then tap the Alt key to make my copy, and I'll just put the copy right over here. And then I will pan over and focus on just this one building. And I think a really good way to do that is to isolate it. So I will isolate. Well, I didn't type that right. Let's do this. Isolate. There we go. All right. So I can just focus on that one building. All right. So the next thing I want to do is I would like to take this point on the front of the building and push it back. So if I go to my hip roof example, you can see I just want to take it back like that. So what I'll do is I'll hold down Control Shift. I'll let it pick the point. And if I were right now to click, and also I'll click and drag right now, watch what's going to happen. I'll just push it back about that far. It gives me a really, really interesting shape. I like it. I like what Rhino can do here, but that's not the shape I'm looking for. So I need to split that surface first. So I will undo, and then I will repeat my split face command. So I type it in, split face, enter. Select the face to split. You just click on the face and then enter. And then the start point, I'll pick right over here at this endpoint. And then I'll take it across to this endpoint. And then I'll enter. And then enter again to finish. So now that I split that, I will go ahead and, let me zoom in a bit here, hold down Control Shift, let it hover until it finds the point, click on the point, release the Control Shift keys, and now I will give the green axis one click, and then the value that I want will match the height. So if I went up 4 feet, I'm going to go back 4 feet. So it already has that value preset, and I'll just go ahead and enter. And then I will click off of that point, and I have my hip roof. And I'll do the same thing on the back side, only this time I'm going to go just a little bit quicker. I'll select my object. That way I can orbit about it like that. Goes quick. And then I'll do a split face. One second. And instead of typing it all, I see that it comes up and I'll just click right here on the name. Split face. I'll select the surface, enter. And then it says select or start of the polyline. I'll pick right here. It will end there. And then enter. And then enter again. And then hold down Control Shift. When I hover and it finds the point, give it a click. And then there's the blue, or I'm sorry, the green arrow. So I'm going to click on the green arrow, and it cannot be 4 feet because that's in the positive direction. It has to be -4 feet, and enter. And I've pushed it back. All set. So I will now go ahead and type show and enter. And these are my examples. I will now type ZEA for zoom extents all and enter. And this is what I have. And I'll just orbit in this direction. No, I think I was in that direction. Okay. When I'm modeling here in Rhino, I don't mind having extra information because I will eventually be taking these individual masses and using them elsewhere. And I can discard this later. I can keep it there. It doesn't matter. I'm basically just workshopping it here, coming up with some ideas as to what I'd like to do. All right, let me bring back my example on what I had done before. And the 2-story building is going to be the same as your single story. So let me just model that real quick. I'm not going to go through all the steps that I went through with this example because it's a repeat of that. And this surface already exists. I'm just going to leave it there, and I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to draw a rectangle. So I will go ahead, rather not a rectangle, a plane. And I could do a box. I'll do a box later, but let me start first with the plane. So I'm going to start with plane, enter. And the first corner, I'm floating out here. I am nowhere near that origin point, so I can't type 0. So I'm just going to click one time. One click like that. And then it says other corner or length. Okay, the length I wanted to have is 30 feet. So I'm going to type in 30 feet, enter. And then it says, what about the width? The width will be 60 feet, enter. And that gives me the surface that I want. And then from here, I can go ahead and extrude my surfaces. So extrude surface, select the surface, enter. I'd like to extrude it up, let's say 4 feet, done. And then I could enter to repeat the command, click on the surface, enter, that goes up 8 feet. I can enter again to repeat the command, select that surface, enter, take that up 1 foot. That's the structure in between the floors. Enter again, pick this surface, enter, take it up 8 feet. And then one more time, enter, pick that surface, enter, and then take that up 1 foot. Let's see, 1 foot, enter. All right. And again, if you want to do a 3-story building, you are more than welcome to do that. It's fine. But I'll stop there. And then, like I mentioned just a little while ago here, I can go ahead and draw a box. So I'll just go ahead and type in box. First corner of my base is right here. And then it asks for the length. I'll type in 30 feet. And then it wants it was the width, and now the length, 60 feet. And then I'll give it a height. And the height here, I'm going to make it 4 feet, like that. And then I can continue. I can either extrude the surface like I did before, or hold down Control Shift, click on that surface, click on the blue dot. That will allow me to extrude it, give it a height, 8 feet. Click on the blue dot again, type 1 foot, click on the blue dot, 8 feet, and one more, click on the dot, and 1 foot. And click off of it, and I'm all set. So notice how I accomplished the same results and just did it a couple different ways. And again, from here, you can put the type of roof that you want, whatever it is that you would like to do. So I just want to show these as examples. And now I'm going to come back to my other example that I had here. And I think it'll be very helpful for you to practice putting in some stairs that lead up to the building because it is 4 feet above ground. And I made it exactly 4 feet because I want my steps to be 12 inches deep, and then I want my risers to be 8 inches. Now, 8 inches is a lot, but for the sake of constructing these masses, I don't need to be too specific, too particular. So I know that every time I go up one level, I'm sorry, every time I go up 3 steps, that's 2 feet. So 1, 2, 3 times 8 is 24. 1, 2, 3 times 8 is also 24. And 24 plus 24 is 48. And that gives me the nice round number that I want. Again, nobody's going to be measuring this. And when you're looking at these buildings from very, very, very far away like that, you're not going to be able to tell. And that's not what we want to be the focus of our model. These are conceptual masses that we're going to use more or less as entourage that will help us create a sense of community, also create a sense of scale in our site. So let me go ahead and move this out of the way and show you how to do that. And actually, let me bring it back. I modeled these separate and I can keep them separate. And then when I put them up against the building, I can then create a Boolean union if I want, or keep them separate. It doesn't matter. It's entirely up to you. But I want to show you how I did this. There were a couple of different ways, and those 2 different ways are basically just to draw the box and then copy it multiple times. And then over here, start with one box and then just take those faces and extrude them out while it makes a copy. So let me move this out of the way and go ahead and get started. So I drew it somewhere near my building just so I had a frame of reference and also some sense of scale. So let me tap the escape key now and I'll start with a box. So I'll type in box and then the first corner I'll just pick right here. And then the base or the length, I made mine 6 feet wide, but you can make it any distance you want, any length you want. So I'm going to make it 6 feet, enter. And then it says the width, and I made that 12 inches. So I'll just type in 12 and enter. And then for the height, like I said, the riser height was 8 inches. So I'm going to type in 8 and enter. So that gives me the one step that I want. And then I will angle my view. Actually, I'm going to click on it so that it orbits around the gumball like that. Zoom in. And then it's just a matter of making a copy. So select the object and type copy and enter. And I will pick this as my base point, the endpoint right there. Copy it here. That's 2. That's 3, 4, 5, 6. And do I have enough? Let's see. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I think I'm overdoing it. Give me 1 second. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I don't know what I was counting. So I have that height. So I'm all set. And I'm going to, let's see. Yeah, I want to fill in the underside because if I leave it like that, sure, I can, but it may not look right for my conceptual mass. So here's how I did it. I'm going to construct, or I'm going to draw some lines here. I would start by drawing a polyline, but for for the beginning class here, I just want to show you it's better to draw the lines separate. So I'm going to type Line, enter, and then I'll draw a line from this endpoint over. And I don't know exactly where it lines up with the top step, so I'll just bring it out about this far. And then I'll enter to draw another line, and I want it to go from this endpoint straight down. And notice how it shifted or it changed. You see how it's not drawing it flat. just by taking it down, and I want to make sure that I go past that point, and also make sure you have ortho on. I'll click right here. And then let me orbit about this for a second so you can see what it's doing. See those two lines right there. Make sure that the last one that you draw, which is this one, is going straight down. So what I'll do now is draw my third line, and I just want to pan this over, and this should be an okay view right there. And I'll just type line, and I'll draw a line from this endpoint and let it snap to that endpoint there. So I have those three lines. And now what I'd like to do is trim the corner here. So I'm just going to type trim, enter. It says to select the cutting objects. I'm going to use a crossing window like this. So it picks both of them. And then I enter. And then I'll pick this end segment to trim, and then this one also to trim, and enter. So what I'm left with now are these three lines. I'm doing this really deliberate. And then when you see what I'm going to do, you can try doing it other ways. So I now have these three individual lines. You can see that it's got a curve and then the other two. And I want to create one single polyline out of these three. So I have that one selected. I'll hold down the shift key, pick this one, still holding down the shift key, and pick that one. And with all three selected, I now will type join and enter. And it will join and make one single polyline. And let's see, I'm going to go over here to my properties, and it says it's a closed curve. Great. That's what I wanted. All right, so now the next thing I want to do here is extrude it along the red axis. So I'm just going to click right here on the red dot, and I'm going to say -6 feet, enter, and then tap the escape key. So now I have this solid here, and let me see something. If I move this out of the way, yeah, the lines are still there. So I'll make sure to either get rid of it or take care of this another way, but just pointing out that the line is still there. So let me undo this. Okay, so that's all set. And now if I want to make all of this into one single solid, I'll just select everything and I'll use a Boolean operation. So I will do a Boolean, and this one will be a Boolean union. So I select that option and tap the escape key, and it has all become one. I still have the curve, did not become part of that Boolean union, so I'll just select it and delete because I don't need it anymore. And then I will, let's see, orbit like this, and I can move the stairs from this endpoint right here. Let me orbit again so I can see the back end or the corner of the house there, and I'll move it right there. And like I said, if you want to union all of that, you can. If you look at that and go, well, I think I want it wider than 6 feet, that's fine. And the other thing I'm noticing also is that there's nowhere to stand. When I come, walking up to this house, ring the doorbell, it's really tight there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the steps here. I'm going to click on the green arrow, and I'm going to say move it back -3 feet like this. And then I'll orbit, and then I will click off of the stairs, hold down Control Shift, click on this surface, and then I will extrude that by clicking here. Actually, I don't need to extrude it, I just want to move it. So I'll click on the green arrow, and I'll say move it forward 3 feet, like that, and then click off of it. And now, if I want, I can union that. And I'm just really showing that this is the house I'm going to walk up to, and maybe I want it to make the steps a little bit wider. So I'll hold down Control Shift, click on that surface, and click on the red arrow. And I want 2 more feet, so it's going to be -2 feet, just because I'm looking at the arrow, and I know it has to go in the opposite direction. And I'll click off of it, and that's it. So that's one way to put in the steps. Another way to do this is to basically just extrude one single box. So I will type box again, And the first corner, I'll just make it right here. The length, I'll stick with 6 feet like I did before. And the width will be 12 inches. And then the height on that is going to be 8 and enter. So I have that. Let me click on it so that I can orbit about it. And now what I like to do is look at the side over here that is going to be facing my building. Hold down Control Shift, click on that surface, and then click on the dot here to extrude. And that'll be 12 and enter. Click on it again, 12 and enter. Click on it again. It's already going 12, so I enter that. So you see where this is going. Let me pan over. So as I study this, this will be the first 8 inches. So that's 8 plus 8 plus 8. I'm at 24. So I need to do this 2 more times. Click, 12 it is, enter, click, enter. And then let me just tap the escape key. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Great. So now what I'm going to do is, sorry, I'm always orbiting. I will go ahead and Control Shift, click on this surface. I will take it up 8 inches. And I did this before, and I'm glad I made the mistake again. Notice what's happening. I can't just move that because everything else connected, so I need to extrude it. So let me undo that and click on the blue dot here and go 8 and enter. There we go. And then I'll just orbit around the side over here. Hold on Control Shift, click on this surface. And notice it did not deselect the other one, so I have to be real careful here. So let me click off of both of them. Come back, Control Shift, click on this surface. Click on the blue dot. 8 plus 8 is 16, so 16 and enter. Click off of it. Continue, Control Shift. Click on that one. This needs to go up 3. So 3 times 8 is 24. So I'll give that a click. Type 24. Click off of it. Control Shift. Click on this surface. Click on the dot to extrude it. So that's 24 plus 8. So 24 plus 4 is 30. Plus another 4. That puts us at 34. Quick math. So 34 inches up. Click off of it. And then come over here. Control Shift. Pick that one. Click. 34 plus 8. 42. There we go. And that's how I can construct the steps. And then finally, with this solid selected, and merge all coplanar faces. I'm all set. And then I know that I'm going to extend that landing. So I'll just go Control Shift, click on this surface, click on the green arrow, and type in 3 feet. You can make it more if you want. So that's a couple of different ways to make the stairs. Now, finally, let me bring this example back. I want to show you how to generate the door opening. We're not going to put doors. We just want to give the understanding that there's a door. And you can put windows also. And this is a new command. So let me move this out of the way. And now I think I'm just going to select my object here, and I will type isolate. And this works great because I didn't have the stairs unioned to it. Actually, I think I do want to see the stairs, but I'll get to that in just a moment. All right, what I'm about to do, make sure that you have Auto Seaplane turned on. So mine is now on. It's active. I hold down Control Shift. I click on the surface, and you see how the grid changes. So I want to draw a rectangle on this surface. And I'll go ahead and just click on my rectangle. And it says corner to corner. I don't know exactly where I want to place it, so I'm just going to start by clicking here. And this is going to represent my door opening. So the length on it is going to be 3 feet. Enter. And then the width is going to be 7 feet. Enter. Nothing exact. And I noticed I probably should have typed the values differently. That's okay. I'll just click and drag and rotate my object here a little bit. No, it's going to rotate the wrong one. 1 second. Click on that surface. Sorry, that rectangle. And let me rotate it this way to stand up. All right. Then I'm going to move it into a position so that I can have it more or less be in the correct spot. So I'm going to select my curve and I'm just going to type move, and I'll move it from this endpoint over to this endpoint. Okay. And now I would like to move it up. So I click on the green axis and I'm going to move it up 4 feet. And now I'd like to move it over at least 2 feet away from the wall. And you pick whatever value you want. So I'm going to click on my red arrow here. I'm going to say -2 feet, enter. And then I'll tap the escape key. And I'll go ahead and type show. And I do have that opening right where it should be. And this is why maybe I could have left the stairs, would have saved me a little bit of typing, but that's fine. And now there's a wonderful, wonderful command that's new to Rhino. And this is called push pull. So I'm going to type push, and you can see it coming up, pull, and I'll enter. And what push pull will do is it will find areas that are broken or separated by lines, and it will generate a new surface from that. So be real careful, or be mindful rather. It's saying to select surface to push pull. I'm going to click right here on the inside of this rectangle. I give it 1 click. And then I move my cursor. Notice as I move the cursor, let me turn OSNAP off. There we go. If I were to bring it out, it's going to create a new solid there, which is great. But I want to push it back and give it a recess. And give it a recess anywhere from 2 to 4 inches, whatever you'd like. I'll just type in 3 for now and enter. And just like that, it pushes it back. And that's really, really nice. And here, just to play around a little bit, if I draw a circle, and let's see if I hold down Control Shift. No, I should do that first. 1 second. Control Shift, pick this surface. There we go. Draw a circle on that surface like this, and then tap the escape key. And then I can type push, pull, enter, click inside the circle, and notice how it's going to pull it out. Or check this out. I'm just going to go all the way to the back side. Let's turn on, or let me turn on Object Snap. Let it snap to this endpoint. And then if I wanted to, I could have a hole right through the middle of my building. But that's the nice feature of this push-pull. Okay, I'll undo. It's a little bit of fun. And I'll undo that also. So that's my door. And now I would just need to put in windows. It's up to me where I want to put the windows. Also, if I take this solid, let me just move it out of the way for a second. Notice it still left that rectangle behind, so be mindful of that. Let me undo this, and then I'll just click, let's see, hold down Control Shift. No, I'm just going to click right here. It did find the curve. I'll pick it. I can delete it, and then I'll draw another curve to represent the entry here, the rectangle there. I can draw lines. I can type L for line. I'm sorry. Oh, I guess you can. I'm just used to typing it all out. So line from this endpoint across. And then I can, let's see, pick that line, curve, sorry. And I'll just say copy. And let's see if it'll let me copy it down. And I'll pick a height. And in this case, I do want to be more or less exact. Let's say I want a 4-foot window there. And I want it to go down in this direction. Let's see, is it taking it down in that direction? 1 second. Looks like it may not go in that direction. It's bringing it out. So I probably should have done it a different way. I won't take up your time. I'm going to let you think about it, how you'd like to do it. Put windows on the other side and just give it a nice sense of being a building. And that's what I'd like you to focus on. Give yourself at least 2 or 3 different building types. And I'm keeping it very simple, very straightforward here. But you are more than welcome to practice doing all sorts of designs conceptually. It's a good way to practice some mass modeling also. If you have seen a building that looks different, in your neighborhood and you want to practice constructing that, by all means do so. And, you know, practice all you want. We're going to use the buildings later on in a site plan. So the more you have, the better, and just to have that variety. So this is just me starting you off, but please, please be as creative as you'd like to. All right, make sure you save, and we'll be using these down the road. All right, thank you.